All right, y'all. We give praise, esteem, and honor to Abba and Shamayim in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. We pick this up in John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me, and you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Alahym in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. And if another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, and not the honor that comes from Alahym only? Do not think that I will accuse you. But there is one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote it. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? All esteem and praise to Abba and Shamayim in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Let's hit John 3:22. Shalom me. After these things came Yahushua and his disciples into the land of Yehuda. And there he tarried with them and immersed, and Yachanan was also immersing in Enon near to Salim, because there was much water there. And they came and were immersed. Oh, you straight, shalom, bro. For Yachanan was not yet cast into prison. There arose a question between of Yachanan's Talmud and the Yahudim about purifying. And they came unto Yachanan and said unto him, Rabbi, he that was with you beyond Jordan, to whom you bear witness, behold, the same immersed, and all come to him. Yachanan answered and said, a man can receive nothing except to be given him from Shamayim. You yourselves bear witness that I said, I am not the Hamashiach, but I am sent before him. He that hath the bride is the bridegroom. But the friend of the bridegroom would stand and hear him, rejoice greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This, my joy, therefore, is fulfilled. He must increase, but I decrease. He that comes from above is above all. He that is of the earth is earthly, and speak of the earth. He that comes from Shamayim is above all. And what he hath seen and heard, that he testified, and no man received his testimony. He that received his testimony hath set to his seal that Alahym is true. For he whom Alahym hath sent speak the words of Alahym, for Alahym give not the Ruach by measure. The Abba loved the Son, and have given all things into his hand. He that believe on the Son have everlasting life. He that believe not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of Alahym abide on him. So, with that being said, let's come back to Proverbs chapter 6. Uh, 6 and 20. My son, keep your Abba's commandments. Forsake not the law of your mother. Bind them continually upon your heart. Tie them about your neck. And when you go, it shall lead you. And when you sleep, it shall keep you. And when you awake, it shall talk with you. Now, I think we discussed this particular passage, but we're going to do it now. Do it again. Now, of course, we already talked about Jeremiah 31 and the difference in the law when it pertains to it'll be in your inward parts. We'll do the inward parts part one more time. Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews 8. And 5. Oh, you know I got you, Trina. Shoot, my number's still the same. Shalom, brother Ernest, man. Hebrews 8 and 5. Who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of Alahym when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, you make all things according to the pattern shown to you in the mount. But now he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is a mediator of a better covenant, which is established by better promises, upon better promises. For if the first have been faultless, then should of no place have been sought for the second. Hey. Don't come in here with that, boy. For finding fault with them, he said, behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Yasharal and with the house of Yehuda. No, be quiet. Not according to the covenant I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Mizraim, because they continued not in my covenant. And I regarded them not, saith Yahuwah. For this, the covenant that I will make with the house of Yasharal after those days, saith Yahuwah, I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them an Alahym, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know Yahuwah, for all shall know me from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. And that he saith, a new have he made the first old, now that which decay and wax old is ready to vanish away. Now, of course, you know it's many contentions with many people about whether we in a new covenant or not. That's unfortunate. But nevertheless, let's come back to Proverbs 6. We need to put that on the table. That a part of this new covenant is that he will put the word in your heart and in your mind, that you'll do it. Now, I'm leading to this here because we was having a conversation along those other lines about Deuteronomy 32, 8 and 9, which in turn lead to Psalms 82 and people's particular understanding of that passage, which is grossly different than what any of you would be accustomed to, just because you don't deal with the humanities of the ancient Near East and the Sumerians and the Mesopotamians. But we'll deal with that a little bit. But Proverbs 6 and 20 again, he tells them to forsake not the law of his mother and bind them continually upon your heart. I'm going to give you the definition of continually. Hey, I done told you don't come in here with that noise, and that's what I mean. Little boy, be quiet. First and foremost, I'll give you bind, which is kasar, kuf, shan, raj, which is the bind together. So when you're taking about binding together, shalom, brother Joseph, man. I want you to pause. I want you to come to John 14 because we're going to walk it down. I make it 21, 23 really what I need. Shalom, brother Robert. He that have my instructions and keep them, he it is that love me, and he that love me shall be loved of my Abba, and I will love him and will manifest myself to him. Judas saith unto him, not Iscariot, Lord, how is it that you will manifest yourself unto us and not unto the world? Yahushua answered and said unto him, if a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Abba will love him, and we will come and make our abode with him. Now, of course, you know, abode and bind are going to be two different things, but we want you to catch the premise. Let me get the word abode real quick. Joanne, don't come in here with that. When we look at abode, it is monet, a staying, an abiding, a dwelling, an abode, or to make one's abode. Now, why is this congruent when we look at what it is when he's telling them to take that word and bind it? This is Proverbs 6 and 21 again with kasar, with bind it, because you're binding together or making a league together. He's coming to be bound with you, or abode with Shalom, Brother Shaul, or abide with you. That's making a league together. Do y'all know what it is to make a league? And there's a passage that has league in it in Hebrew, and we can deal with that. Do y'all know what that means when you say you're making a league with somebody? I think it's in Isaiah 8, if my memory serves me correctly. Well, it's in a few of them. I want to make sure I choose a passage that's the proper. Proper context. 1 Samuel look like it's going to be the one. Come over here to 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel 22 and 4. We could pick it up at verse 1. Ain't going to hurt nobody. Indeed, Civic, a covenant or an alliance. And that's where you will see where the abode come in at in John 14. But we'll pick it up and read the Hebrew word for lead. Look at it in that context of being bound together, so on and so forth. David therefore departed thence and escaped to the cave of Alahym. And when his brethren and all his father's house heard, they went down to him. Everyone in distress, everyone that was in debt, everyone that was discontented, gathered themselves unto him, and he became captain over them, and there were about 400 men. Now, we talked about this passage not too long ago, and I'll rehash those definitions on general principle. Remember, he said everybody that was in distress, masok, distress, stress, anguish, come unto me, every one of you that are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Everyone that was in debt, which is Nashah, Nun, Shan, and Aleph, which means to lend on interest or usury, to be a creditor. You sold yourself for naught, you shall be redeemed without money. He that commits sin is the servant of sin. You in debt because of your sin. We obviously seen that in Hebrews chapter 8 because of the making of a new, a second covenant. And everyone that is discontented have came and made this man a captain or a ruler over him. Discontented is mar nefesh, which is bitterness of soul. Bitterness of soul. Mar is bitterness, nefesh is soul. Again, the Matthew 11. Well, let's continue. David went thence to Mitzvah of Moab, and he said unto the king of Moab, let my Abba and my Emma, I pray you, come forth and be with you, till I know what Alahym will do for me. And he brought them before the king of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the while that David was in the hold. And David said unto the prophet Gad unto David, abide not in the hold, depart and get you into the land of Yehudah. Then David departed and came forth into the land of Harab. When Saul heard that David was discovered and the men that were with him, now Saul abode in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having a spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing about him. Then said Saul unto his servants that stood by him, hear now, you Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards and make you captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, that all of you have conspired against me, and there's none that show me that my son have made league with the son of Jesse? And there's none of you that are sorry for me, or show unto me that my son have stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait, as it is this day. Now we're going to go back and look at the league that him and Jonathan had. When you have league here, you have karath. And what is that? Is to cut off a body part, to cut a covenant, or to cut or to make a covenant. So when you look at binding, when he's telling you, this is making a covenant. So when it's taking us to a foreshadowing of the new covenant. Come to 1 Samuel 18 if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah, there it is. 18 and 1. 1 Samuel 18 and 1. And it came to pass when he made an end of speaking unto Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Now, pause. Let's look at knit. What word is it? It's kasar. Or kushar, excuse me. And what is it? To bind together, to league, together, to conspire, to bind together. They're in league or in love. And of course, pause. Let me pull this passage up, man. That might be Ezekiel 18 I'm thinking about. Let me make sure. It is. Come over here, Ezekiel 16 and 8. Just to read it off the paper versus saying it out loud. Because Brother Ernest put that stuff in the chat, so we'll read it off the paper so we can slide it in there. I start throwing them off the top too many times. Everybody might not catch what that is off the paper. So Ezekiel 16:8. He said, now when I passed by you and looked upon you, behold, your time was the time of love. And I spread my skirt over you and covered your nakedness. And I swear unto you and entered into a covenant with you, saith Yahuwah Alahym, and you became mine. Now, why am I referencing that? Because what did we read in John 14? Peace, Brother Omar, man. He said, he that have my commandments and keep them, he it is that love me, and he that love me shall be loved of my Abba. That's what he said in verse 21. Then he said in verse 23, if a man love me, he'll keep my words, and then my Abba will love him. But why am I mentioning this? Because we're reading 1 Samuel 18:1. He's telling you that it came to pass that he made an end of speaking to Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. So if they've made a league, as we read in 1 Samuel 22:8, if they made a league with each other, they've been bound to each other by a covenant. This is a covenant of love. So when we take John 15:13, and I want you to keep this in mind of when I get to what I want to get to in Psalms 82. You know what I'm saying? Y'all willing to make even perfect sense, more sense at that particular juncture. Nevertheless, remember, this is stemming from Proverbs 6 and 20 and 21. We say, bind these upon your heart and continually upon your neck. We ain't even got to the word continually yet. We're just dealing with bind from verse 21 and Proverbs 6. So what we understand is this is a covenant of love. So when he say greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay his life down for his friends, and this is my blood which is shed in the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins, that takes us back to Hebrews 8. That their unrighteousness will I be merciful to, and I will remember no more. So therefore, the first covenant which he found fault with, not fault with the covenant, but fault with the people, is able to pass away by loving kindness, because that's what he said that he would draw you with. So you got that this is what he will draw you with. Now you see Yahushua's actions as a literal manifestation. Therefore, when you say you believe on him, as the scripture has said, and you take hold to said covenant, now you've entered into him with the covenant of love. Now you're knit with him. You're leagued with him. This is why his father is able to make his abode with you. That's why I say if you love him, then his father will love you. See, this is going to be the opposite of what you see with Saul as it pertains to Jonathan and David. Jonathan loved the son of Jesse, but his father despised him. The difference in this one is if you love if you look at it in the aspect that Jonathan is representative of Yahushua, and that love from Jonathan falls on you being David, well, then Jonathan's father is going to love you. Because does anybody know what Jonathan or Yakanah name mean? And it'll make sense why I described it that way, because I think I said it backwards the first time. Does anybody know what Jonathan's name means off the top of their head? Beloved? No, that's David. That's David that means beloved. Anybody know what Jonathan's name means? Same thing as John. Indeed, Monte, Yahuwah is gracious. And if we look at that, that means Yahuwah is love. So therefore, Yahushua is the personification of this. As far as the testimony is concerned, Jonathan is the son of the king. He would be playing that role. Now, when we look at it in the literal sense, the father did not love who loved the son. When we look at it in the testimony, because Jonathan and David were knit together in a covenant with love, he loved him as his own soul. Yahushua was willing to lay his life down because he loved us as his own soul. You know what I'm talking about? That's why the text tells you, let's look at Hebrews 13:1. Let's just do that. And of course, we talked about this the other day in John 13, where he told you straight up and down that you should love one another. And by loving one another, everybody will know that you're my disciples. The same way he said, you call me your Lord and Master, and I am. And I've washed your feet. You ought to wash one another's feet. And if you remember this, blessed is he that remember this. So come over to Hebrews 13:1. After Hebrews 13:1, Psalms 133 on general principle. This is Hebrews 13:1. It's straightforward, straight to the point. Let brotherly love continue. Just that simple. Now we get that aspect from looking at Jonathan and David. Brotherly love continue. Let's look at 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 22 before we get to Psalms 133. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 22. You know what? You can make it 16 on general principle. This is 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 16 on general principle. After that, Psalms 133. Because it is written, be you Kadash, for I am Kadash. And if you call on the Abba who without respect of persons judge according to every man's work, pass the time of your sojourning in fear. For as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things, silver and gold, from your vain behavior, by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of a Mashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, who truly was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who by him do believe in Alahym, that raised him up from the dead and gave him esteem, that your faith and hope might be in Alahym. Seeing that you have purified your souls in obeying the truth through the Ruach, under unfeigned love of the brethren, love one another with a pure heart fervently. You understand? This is taking it right back to the aspect of what we read in John 14, when you bind this man's words together in your heart continually. You understand? Then love is going to abide. See, I know a lot of brews don't like to hear about love because they thinking about it in an emotional aspect, which is unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? We was having a conversation along them lines the other day. I just tell you, I wasn't raised by people who looked at love as an emotional output. You know what I'm saying? And it's cool if you were. It's no knock on nobody for it. Who? You want some emotional love?
No, I want the other kind.
I just gave you a hug 15 minutes ago. You want another one? You want 3 more? 4 more? Because you're nasty. Hey, sit down. Sit down. You know what I'm saying? But some people don't look at it like that. You know what I mean? But when you look at it from the godly aspect, the love of Alahym is not a feeling. It's not a feeling. It's a literal, it's a verb. Like Ahab, if I'm not mistaken, is a verb. You know what I'm saying? Like I told you plenty of times before, man, y'all have mercy on this soul. That's what Joanne Bonton, that's one of the few things I remember her telling me before she died, is that love is an action word. It's what you do. It's not something you feel. And you're looking for an emotional love, truth be told, in my opinion, as a man, you operate in the auspices of a woman, because you shouldn't be looking for that. You know what I'm saying? Because people could be there, give you quote unquote emotional love, and you can have a feeling, but they're not loving you like they supposed to, and you're gonna miss out because you're looking to feel something. But what you gonna do when that feeling subsides? You know what I'm saying? That's a Western aspect of always constantly operating about feelings. You know what I'm saying? The feelings will deceive you every day and twice on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? If you're not careful. Now I know that's be harsh in some people's minds, but a simple aspect of the Yahushua didn't come through to make you feel love. He showed you he loved you based off of what he did. Let me give you an example of that. As I say that, Acts 10 and 36. Dwayne, go in there with your mama, son. Take those out of your mouth, son, and go in there and sit down with your mama. Take that stuff out your mouth before you choke yourself, boy. It do. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of it definitely is a Western influence. A lot of things are a Western influence. You know what I'm saying? Because, Shalom, Sister Regina, how things are done over here, obviously it's going to shape your worldview and point of view because this is where you live. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, give you an example of what I mean. A dude made a video and he was like, Jacksonville is a false city. He said it doesn't feel, why would you do that? That didn't make any sense. Because he said it doesn't feel like a major city, meaning a city that has 1 million people in it because nobody lives downtown. You know what I'm saying? And when I mentioned this to them, I said, nobody really lives downtown in this city because people don't want to. Because there's enough ample area on the north, south, and west side. East side ain't got a lot of land like that because east side, depending on where end you is, you're kind of downtown. You know what I'm saying? And then on the other part of it, you're kind of not. But nevertheless, because they don't have to. And somebody was like, they took it personal, like this is A lot of people want to live like that because people live in urban cores like this all over the world. And I'm like, whoa, pump your brakes. I'm talking about in Jacksonville. Because in Jacksonville, if everybody wanted to live stacked like Pringles on top of each other downtown, they would have already done it. But because they have the option to not live like that, they choose not to. And then my next statement to them was, do you really want to live in an urban core stacked on top of people because that's how you want to live? Or that's because that's how somebody built a city based off the square mileage in that particular city. And then now you've been trained and conditioned to think that this is how you should live. And therefore you want to live like this. You know what I'm saying? Like you got people say you take New York City, for example, and people live stacked on top of each other. You know what I'm saying? But they believe, hey, this is the way to live because that's their environment. And then a lot of them find out, you know what? They have a family. It's that I don't want to live like that. But you don't even realize that that's just societal conditioning. You know what I'm saying? And that's just it. It's just societal conditioning. You take it even further in these days and times. You have a lot of people that don't want to be married anymore. They don't care about having like, because we were talking about that as far as marriage is concerned, like in this particular society, at least in the West, because that's where the conversation came from. In Western society, the pushing, prodding, and moving for being married based off of love or the fairy tale, this, that, there, and the third, that's not how people got married throughout the course of human history. You've been socialized to look at it in that fashion. And then when things don't go according to the socialization, you get in a little upheaval, you know, you get a little distorted. There's another case, an example of how they done did this because they done convinced people. In a time period, people got married exponentially younger. You know what I'm saying? Now in this country, most people are not getting married till they're in their 30s. Now, part of that is because of the economic upheaval that these people have placed in this society where people don't want to get married because they're broke. You know what I'm saying? I say this because you live in a society where you have at least an internet pushing for, you know, the man should pay for everything. He should do this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. When, hey, this is not the same times that these people who came before you lived in. So now you've been societally conditioned that you want this. These people have purposely created an economic environment where that is not necessarily sustainable for 95% of the population. Because truth be told, it's doable depending on where you stay at. But in most cities, man, to live comfortably on one income, people gonna have to make about $500,000 or more. Most people don't make that, and they wanted it that way. You know what I'm saying? So that there could be a divide and a split between the parents, the spouses, and the children. This is all societal. So then the children grow up and they begin to have a particular worldview and they espouse it. And then it perpetuates the mindset of how they want you to behave. And you think you came up with these thought processes organically when really somebody sat in a room and socially engineered the entire society to move in the direction that they wanted it to go in to fulfill their purposes, aims, and goals. That's why I always tell you, whatever thought processes you hold, whatever worldviews you hold, whatever that may be, you have to sit back and ask yourself, where did you pick them up at? Why do you hold them? Where are they rooted in? Or are you just going along to get along in a society while at the same time telling a child not to be a follower when the reality is you've been a follower all your life and you didn't even know it? And I ain't talking about being a follower of God. I'm talking about being a follower of a damnable doctrine in a God-forsaken country. And you espouse and spit things. It ain't got nothing to do with nothing. It's the same way I told you last week. When people sit back and scream, men are born to be a provider. I wasn't born to be a provider for nobody but my goddamn self. If you think that I was put here on the earth to be subservient to a woman, you done lost your goddamn mind. I wasn't born for that. I wasn't created for that. That's a responsibility that I choose to take on freely if I so choose. But that's not what I was born for. You can't read nowhere that that's what a man was born for. But that type of information is to cause a particular mindset in an individual to behave a particular type of way, to be a cog in a capitalistic consumerism type of society. Peace, Brother Nate, man. You know what I'm saying? And you don't realize that because you're spitting this back out, but you don't know where that come from because you never took the time to sit back rationally and logically and say, why do I hold this ideology? Why do I hold this worldview? Is it really rooted in the values and perspective that I personally hold based off of this, off of a foundation of something? Or is it because this is what everybody else says what should be done, so I just go along with it? And then you place that burden of expectation on yourself and or others. You know what I'm talking about? It's the same token I told you before, man. You live around black folks, man, and they'll tell you, man, you spoiling that baby. Don't do this, don't do that. I mean, children don't have the emotional self-regulation that adults have. So it's certain things that children do because their parents give them comfort. And we come from a society that tell you to not comfort children because it's an inconvenience to you because you thinking, well, nah, he should be doing this. Nigga, that's a child. What is wrong with you, bro? Just pick the baby up, my nigga. I told you this plenty of times before, man. You can never spoil a child with too much love. It's not possible. But we've been socialized to believe that loving children is a bad thing, that comforting children is a bad thing, because we don't even have the cognitive ability to say, okay, if this child is manipulating you, that you could just sit back and point that out to that child of why that's not proper behavior and not do that versus just shunning them. Because they told you that's what you should do. That's nigga stuff. Matter of fact, that's not even, and when I say nigga stuff, I'm not talking about from black people. I'm talking about from the Caucasians who run the societies. Because that's ignorant stuff. When I say nigga stuff, that's ignorant stuff. It doesn't make sense. It's for the purposes of disjointing the mind. You know what I'm saying? Because your children should be attached to you to a certain extent. They should want your love and attention. That's not abnormal. That's normal, my nigga. That's normal. You shouldn't shun it. You shouldn't try to stun it. You shouldn't try to separate it. But that's what we've been told based off societal parameters that people think, oh, they should be able to do this here. It's the same token. I seen the lady post this thing here, man, about she thought she would never let her kid sleep in the bed with her. And then she realized, man, it's just a regulator for them. I done told you before, yeah, could it be an inconvenience to a certain extent? Yeah, probably so. But enjoy it. Why they still want to do it? Because when they get about 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, you're going to think about them days and wish they was that small again to lay in the bed with you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes, just appreciate it in the moment because the moments are fleeting and they fade away fast. You know what I'm talking about? And before you know it, they having their own turn. For real, for real. Let's come over here to Acts 10 to 36. The word which, son unto the sons of Yasharal, preaching shalom, by Yahushua HaMashiach, he is the Lord of all. That word, which was published throughout all Yehuda and began from Galilee, and after the immersion which Yachanan preached, Alahym anointed Yahushua Nazareth with the Ruach HaKadosh and with power, who went about doing good, healing all that were oppressed of the devil, for Alahym was with him. Just out there showing love, man. Showing love to the downtrodden, showing love to those who are suffering. But come back to Psalms 133. Psalms 133 and 1. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Let's look at unity by definition. Then we'll come back to 1 Samuel 18 and 1. This one here, of course, is Yakad. Yad, Kat, Dalit. Union, unitedness, together, all together, alike. And then this one again, for all intents and purposes, a league, a covenant. You know what I mean? It's like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of the garment. You know what I'm saying? Now, he say it's good for brethren to dwell together in unity, and he likened it to the precious ointment that ran upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even down to his feet. Where could we look at that in the Gospels and line that up? Where would you take something from the Gospels and say, you know what? I can see that right here. Does anybody have something that they would like to offer in that regard? As the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the Mount Zion, for there Yahuwah commanded the blessing, life forevermore. So he's likening the brethren dwelling in unity as the dew of Hermon, which of course you know, no, that's a different city, my bad. And that it descended upon the mountains of Zion, and there is where Yahuwah commanded the blessing, life forever. Now ask yourself this question: where can we see verse 2 in the Gospels? Because it's there. It's there. Does anybody have anything that they would like to offer in that regard before I put that on the street? Going once? Going twice? So, Matthew 26 and 6. After that, we come back to 1 Samuel 18. Then slide back to Proverbs 6. Because I at least need to start working on Psalms 82 before we get out of here. Or if not, it'll be on Shabbat if the Lord permit. So Matthew 26 and 6. When his beard was ripped out, no. Now you're going a little in a different spot. Remember, this is what verse 2 say. Verse 1, I should say, behold, how good and how pleasant is it for the brethren to dwell together in unity. So the first thing, of course, you know, good is tob, pleasant is naim, noon, yad, mean. That's pleasant, delightful, sweet, lovely, agreeable, beautiful. So how good and beautiful for the brethren to dwell, which is yasab. Now, brethren, you got gam ab, which is indeed, moreover, yea, so on and so forth. Indeed. In unity, which we just mentioned. He said, brethren dwelling together and beautiful and good unity is just like the ointment upon the head that ran down Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments. That's what he likened brethren dwelling in unity to. So when we come over here to Matthew 26 and 6, now when Yahushua was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of precious ointment and poured it upon his head as he sat at meat. But when the disciples saw it, they had indignation to saying, what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. When Yahushua understood, he said unto him, why trouble you the woman? For she wrought a good work upon me. For you have the poor always with you, but me you have not always. For in that she have poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Truly I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, shall also this woman have done be told for her a memorial. So now you've got the anointing of him. But how does this pertain to this being equal to the brethren dwelling in unity? Well, let's come to verse 26 of the same chapter, and then we'll go to Romans 6 on general principle. And as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and baruch and brake and gave to the disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave to them, saying, drink you all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. Now, again, we're looking at this covenant, which if you hear his words, says he will love you and his Abba will love you, and they will make their abode with you, or they will dwell with you, or they will make a league with you. And this is a league or a covenant of love. You know what I'm talking about? This is what it's based off of. Since I'm steady mentioning that, 1 John chapter 4. And then I get Romans 6. 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. And of course, it's going to take us back to Exodus 34 and 7. Every single 6, every single solitary time. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of Alahym. Everyone that love is born of Alahym, and know Alahym. He that love not No, not Alahym, for Alahym is love. And this was manifested, the love of Alahym towards us, because that Alahym sent his only begotten Son into the world that we might live through him, hearing his love. Not that we loved Alahym, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation or the kafar or the atonement or the covering, harking back into the other thing that we discussed a few weeks back, for our sins. And again, Yahuwah Alahym, merciful, gracious, abundant in goodness and truth, long suffering, showing mercy unto thousands, forgiving sin, iniquity, and transgression. Beloved, if Alahym so loved us, we ought also to love one another. So you take that into account, and you bring that back into how beautiful it is for the brethren to dwell in unity. All this is dealing with, he telling you to take these words, this law, and bind it on your heart, and continually keep it upon your neck, which is what he said he would put his laws in your inward parts, and it would be with you. So, it's a lot of consternation and contention with brothers and sisters as it pertains to, the new covenant and what does it mean for the law to be in your inward parts and things of this nature, which of course we know by the grace of Yahushua is representative of the Ruach HaKadosh. This man word is in you and you in the word, or you in Yahushua and Yahushua is in you. Therefore, because the word is in you, you live by the word. You move by the word. You talk by the word. You know what I mean? Just so we mentioned the other day, like people get in this thing, man, and they forget to be a real person. You can be godly and be a real person. You don't have to be pretentious. You don't have to be a douchebag. You don't have to be this, that, and the third. Your character has become a godly character because the mind of Alahym or the mind of a Mashiach is now your mind. You know what I'm saying? Like you can still be who you are. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. We were talking about the other day and I said that, shout out my man Rob. He was like, man, this nigga is the realest preacher that I ever seen. But being real is just being authentic. And that's it. What you see is what you get. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to, I don't have people say, oh man, you don't dress like a preacher or you don't do this. Nigga, I don't care about what you got in your mind, what you think I should be or how you think I should be. Nigga, I wouldn't be me. I don't want to be who you think I should be. And none of you should want to be who people think you should be. The only person that we should be concerned about being who they want us to be is your Father in heaven. And he wants you to be in the image and likeness of his Son. And that's the only thing that you should be concerned with. Because when you come in the image and likeness of his Son, you won't make provisions to fulfill the lust thereof. And therefore, being conformed in his image, you become the sons and daughters of the living Alahym. Therefore, the life of God is made plain in you. Therefore, the love of God is made plain in you. The righteousness of faith of God is made plain in you. The wisdom and understanding of God is made plain in you. And it's shown forth from how you live your life. Because your life is going to be in accordance to that. Not some pretentious type of douchebag who feel like he got to play a role. But that's not how you live. You know what I'm saying? And we talking about that this morning, man. And honestly, I don't respect that. See, people get in the word and they respect that. But as I said this before, I don't fool with dishonorable niggas, man. It's a lot of niggas don't like me because I done probably said something they ain't like. I don't care, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Because if you not liking me or falling out with me because we have a disagreement, that's a reflection on you, not me. Because I can disagree with you and it's still love, my nigga. It's not that serious. It's really not. It ain't that deep. You know what I'm talking about? See, a lot of people feel like you got to agree with what I agree with or I'm not going to be. And I don't care about none of that. Man, as long as you carry yourself in an honorable and upright fashion, I don't care if you agree with me or not. I really don't. I ain't going to be sitting here looking at you coming with, man, that nigga don't believe. I don't care nothing about that. That whole stuff. Who cares? As long as you ain't on some weirdo stuff, it's not that deep. You know what I'm saying? It's really not. People fall out with people about teachings and doctrines all day, every day. Cuss each other out. But I'm not finna cuss nobody out because you don't see something how I see it. What am I do that for? What does that accomplish? You know what I'm saying? What does that even accomplish? That you don't have the mental and emotional regulation to deal with the fact that somebody has a different point of view and perspective than you? You know what I'm saying? Niggas go run, make clubhouse rooms by people, make posts by people. Shalom, Brother Mark. Make YouTube videos by people. go in people's ear ranting and raving about somebody, do you understand that shows that you have minimal level of intelligence, man? And scant maturity at that point? That clearly you have a mental deficiency and a defect? Because it's not that serious. I promise you it's not. I think that was part of my struggle. I was trying to change my image, how people perceive a person who are believers. It do make sense because that's how a lot of us have been conditioned. You know what I'm saying? And I'm only mentioning this thing because it goes back to my earlier point about societal conditioning. You get in something and you think it's what you're supposed to do because it's what people tell you you're supposed to do. That's why I mentioned that last week when I seen my homeboy Drake. That time, some years, but about a decade or so ago, and he thought I was just gonna run up on him about word because that's what people are conditioned to do when they get in the word. You gotta proselytize, you gotta witness to everybody you see. Woo, woo, woo. Man, I don't do that. If you don't ask for no word, I ain't gonna give you no word unless I'm moved to give you some word or opportunity arises. You just don't do that. There has to be some skill, has to be some type of, you know what I'm saying? Man told you be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. You got to have some skill, some finesse to be able to know when to speak and when not to speak. But the loudest conversation you ever going to have is how you live your life, because that's what people are paying attention to. You know what I'm saying? So I don't say these things so we could kick ourselves in the butt or feel bad about yourself. It's sit back and understanding where did I pick this up at? Why do I feel like I need to do this? Is this authentically and organically who I am? Or am I trying to fit into a role that other people say I should fit into? Versus fitting into the role that God has provided for me to fit into according to the mercy and grace that he has extended. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you goofy, you could still be in the word and be goofy. You know what I'm saying? If you a serious and reserved person, you could still be that. You can still be whoever you are and do whatever it is that you do that's not contrary to the will of God. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to try to fit into the box of what people feel like you should fit into in order to appease them. Because it's only one person that you need to appease, and that's your Father in heaven. And that's it. That's who you need to be concerned about appeasing. Not people walking around here, man. You know what I'm saying? Because if the love of Alahym is in you and radiates out of you, then you're gonna be good. You know what I'm saying? It's all gravy. But a lot of niggas, they be faking and hesitating and procrastinating. You know what I'm saying? And man, we don't respect that. See, it's one thing if you see it again when we saw what I'm talking about is preachers, teachers, leaders, elders, whatever they describe themselves as, man. Man, you can't be on here condemning people for XYZ, boy, and then you get hit in the butt. You're sleeping with different women. You're beating on your wife. You're not taking care of your kids. That type of stuff can't be on your jacket. It can't. You know what I'm saying? And you can't be godly to those who are going to benefit you. You know what I'm saying? Like we were talking about this last week, man. You know what I'm saying? Nigga might hear me go off on something. That's usually based off something somebody stupid done said to me in a direct conversation. That just agitate my soul. You know what I'm saying? But in regards to say if one of y'all was in a situation you done did X, Y, Z, man, I'm not finna go off on you, blood. Go off on you for what? What is that? What does that prove? Okay, if you went and knocked down 2-3 women, what is going off on you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? If you stuck and you feel like, man, I don't know how to get the Sabbath off and you working on the Sabbath, what is going off on you gonna do? If you got a problem with alcohol, porn, weed, whatever it is, what is going off on you going to accomplish? That's not going to accomplish anything. But most people, because you're not round men, you know what I'm saying, as forth as in your formative years, as forth as rearing you, you automatically assume that masculine correction is going to be aggressive, voracious, and humiliating. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is, it's not. You know what I'm saying? If you're dealing with a man and that man actually care about your well-being and is invested in you being successful, the masculine correction is going to hold you to the standard that you say that you move by, and then give you the proper tools and solutions to be able to rectify said issue so that it's no longer an issue, because the objective is to not make you feel bad about yourself. The objective is for you to be the best that you can possibly be and meet what it is that you say that you want to meet. Anybody can cuss you out. Anybody can go off. Anybody can do that. You know what I'm saying? But the ability to take, hold, craft, direct, correct, steer, encourage, strengthen, that's all a part of that, man. Holding you accountable, but holding you accountable does not mean that I'm going to justify you or enable you. And that's what a lot of people in the word want. You want someone to justify you or enable you when you out of pocket, instead of saying, no, you're a man. And you profess that this is the standard and the way of which you say you gonna live. As a man, nobody forced you, cajoled you, pushed you, or manipulated you in doing this. You as a man say, this is the type of time that I'm on. You stood up and said that as a man. So as a man, you got to hold to that. And if you fall short of that, then look here, man. Hey, tighten up on your backstroke, my nigga, because you know what it is and you know what it ain't. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got two broke leg niggas, so you know what I'm saying? Get up on your feet and walk that out. Tighten up on your backstroke. It's simple. Because that's what you're supposed to do as a man. Don't profess something if you know you don't want to do it. Don't claim something if you know you ain't going to live it. So there's a difference when you talking about, okay, man, you made an error, you failed weak. We're not talking about that. We're talking about consciously, knowingly, and deliberately being contrary to what it is that you say that you want. If that's what you want, then stand on that. Be a man. It's simple. Be a man. That man said, hey, man, gird up your loins and show yourself a man. That means to be a man, you might find yourself to have to make uncomfortable decisions. See, a lot of people will tell you, I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. You may not like your choices. But as a man, you know what I'm talking about? You have to make the choice that is in line with what it is that you say you stand for. Not what's going to be comfortable for you. Not what's going to be easy for you. Not what's going to satisfy other people, because you got to look yourself in the mirror every day and be satisfied with what you see back. And if compromising who you are as a man, compromising your ideals, compromising your standards, compromising your values, you comfortable with that, then shoot, live on, my nigga. Live on. You feel me? But as a man, if you're not comfortable with that, you got to look in the mirror and you got to be willing to make some people upset with you, because you're going to stand on what it is that you say you believe. It's hard for us to say that we this, that, there, and the third, and then when it comes down to stand on what it is that you say that you own and you don't do it, it makes people not respect what you're talking about. It makes people not respect it. You know what I'm saying? And one thing you're going to respect me, nigga. You know what I'm saying? That's the attitude you got to have. You're going to respect me, man. Not on no tough guy stuff. This is what I'm on. You're going to respect that, because I'm not going to give you room to disrespect it. Not going to give you room to disrespect that. That's the thought process we got to have. But nevertheless, Romans 6. Six and 1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin, that grace may abound? Alahym forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? Know you not that so many of us were immersed in the Yahushua HaMashiach, were immersed into his death? And that's where the league come in. That's where the unity come in. That's why we read about that with the anointing. Because now we can dwell pleasantly, beautifully, and good in unity because of that anointing. You know what I mean? Therefore, we are buried with him by immersion into death, like that as a Mashiach was raised up from the dead by the esteem of the Abba, even so shall we also walk in newness of life. For we've been planted together in the likeness of his death, we shall also be also in the likeness of his resurrection. Simple and plain. Because now you're taking on the image of Alahym, and that's what we after. 1 Samuel 18 and 1. Let me get to Proverbs 6 so I can get to Psalms 82, man. 1 Samuel 18 and 1. And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day and would let him go no more home to his Abba's house. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him and gave it to David. and his garments, even to his sword and to his bow and to his girdle. Now you see this here, how I say Jonathan stripped himself of his robe. Now when we look at robe, right, Mahil, Meme, Ayin, Lamad. So now you sit back in here, right, and you can see how the shepherd has caused you to experience the Ruach when he stripped off that robe and gave it to him. This man took his spirit off of him, gave it to you. You know what I'm talking about? That's why I say it's expedient that I depart. For if I don't depart, then the comforter can't come. You know what I'm saying? You have to pay attention to how easily and smoothly that the testimony is slid in. And Jonathan does this after he enters into this covenant of love with him. This is why it is good and pleasant for the brethren to dwell together in unity. You feel me? So nevertheless, we through with that. Let's come back to Proverbs 6:21. Prayerfully, by the grace of Yahushua, all that makes sense. I'm going to read verse 20 again, you did? Dwayne Jamal. My son, keep your Abba's commandment and forsake not the law of your mother. Bind them continually upon your heart and tie them upon your neck. So now we're going to look at continually because we already talked about bind. And of course, continually is tamid, tau, mean, dalit, continuity, perpetuity, continually, continuously. What does that mean? Of course, you know, some people argue the once saved, always saved type of deal. But, you know, once you receive the Ruach HaKodesh, you got it. What does that mean? Because the word is constantly in you. So when the word is constantly in you, like we were talking about this other day, right? About the tree of life, you did. And I was like, you know, and of course, y'all already know this because I brought this up to them because, you know, a lot of people don't always reference this. But you know that they were talking about the fruit in the tree of life because, you know, sometimes my mind be bad. I forget what called and stuff. And they was like, you know, what does this mean when it says, you know, every month it yields its fruit is for the healing of the nations? Of course, most of you here know that Jeremiah 17:7 says this. Let's take a look. Because somebody here might not know that Jeremiah 17:7 says this. So let's take a look. Baruch is the man that trusts in Yahuwah, whose hope Yahuwah is. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and spread out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat come, but her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit. Now, when you look at neither cease from yielding fruit, we know that a good tree cannot produce corrupt fruit. So what is the fruit that this tree is never ceasing from yielding? Can anybody tell me what is the fruit that this tree never stops producing? Indeed, Civic. Indeed. Indeed, Emma. Indeed. Let's take a look at it for the people who may not be aware. Let's go to Galatians chapter 5. And of course, you can keep putting them in the chat, Emma, if you are so inclined, because it'll allow somebody to see it if they watch it on the replay and put chats on and things of that nature. This is Galatians chapter 5, verse 22. But the fruit of the Ruach is love. So those who trust in Yahuwah, who he likened to that tree that's in the garden, which is the tree of life, they never stop producing the love of Alahym. I mean, they never stop producing the love of their neighbor. You know what I'm saying? They never stop producing that. They never stop producing joy because the joy of Yahuwah is your strength. They never stop producing peace. They never stop producing long suffering. They never stop producing gentleness. They never stop producing goodness. They never stop producing faith. For those who are adept and aware, you know that these are the very attributes that are prescribed and declared in Exodus 34 when Yahuwah declares his name. So therefore, you're producing God. You understand? When you trust in God, you're going to produce God. So this is why he tell you to bind them continually upon your neck. That's why when he said that when you do this, you'll have them continually, which means per perpetuity. You will continually produce this. It's not going to stop. Continuing on. Not only that, meekness, Temperance, aka self-control, against such there is no law. So if you continually produce this, you can't sin. And if you can't sin, then you don't die, because there's no law against it, because where there is sin, there is death. And they that are Mashiachs are crucified the flesh with the affections and the lusts. Let's look at affections and lusts for those who may not be aware of what that is entailing in Galatians. One thing I told somebody a week or so ago, one thing about this word is people make this thing a lot more difficult than what it needs to be. This thing is not that difficult. Now, of course, you know what lust is. It is epithemia, which is that desire, craving for that which is forbidden. So those who are Mashiachs, they've crucified their desires for that which is forbidden. So therefore, they don't produce those things. Why? He that commits sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abide not in the house forever. We're not prisoners to sin. When you look at affections, what are you dealing with? Pathema. Inward state, an affliction, or passion. You know what I'm talking about? So all your passions, an emotion or an influence. You know what I'm talking about? All your passions and emotional influences, you've put those to death. And see, a lot of people don't want to hear that. I got to put my emotions to death. It's simply put as this. Watch and pray, for the Ruach is willing, but the flesh is weak. Everybody has emotions. You're not supposed to let your emotions make your decisions for you. You're not supposed to be an emotionally driven creature who decides to behave, react, or go after things that are according to your flesh, according to your feelings. That's it. And truth be told, word or not, that's how every adult man should behave anyway. As a grown man, you should not be making emotionally driven decisions. You should not be emotionally reacting. You know what I'm saying? Dude, we're talking about this right before I came on here, man. You know, people like to be mad with the Lord about why he don't stop this, why he don't stop that. You know, he never said he would do any of those things. And, you know, he was like, people who are pedophiles and are this and are that, they're demonic. And you got to stop him. No, that nigga's not demonic. He's not. And we have to stop thinking that people are demonic, quote unquote. That nigga not demonic. That nigga's perverted. You know, we talked about perversion when it came to Satan last week. That nigga's perverted. Remember, he say, your father is the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. Satan is a pervert. When we talk about a pervert, we're not talking about a pervert in the aspect of just being a sexual pervert, but perverting that which is right. Let me give you the English definition of pervert. And let me see, I think it's a Hebrew word for perverted. You pull it up. But when you look at a pervert, that is alter something from its original course, meaning a state of distortion or corruption of what was first intended. Then the second definition is a person whose sexual behavior is abnormal or unacceptable. So when you look at being perverted, and this is where you see how Satan is a pervert, because he wants to distort or corrupt something from what it is initially intended to do. You are initially intended to serve and praise and be the esteem of the Almighty Alahym, Yahuwah of hosts is his name. That is what you were created to do. He seeks to alter that. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say you could be everything. And when you're dealing with perversion in and of itself is not just sexual. Now, mentioning what he's mentioning with a pedophile, obviously that is. But I'm like, that perversion or distortion, that's not your original course. So you have a desire within yourself that you allow to well up to distort you from your original course. That's the same thing with being a lesbian. It's the same thing with being a sodomite. It's the same thing with being a whore. Because see, we was having this conversation the other day about a whore. Now, they, you know, a lot of them may not from Florida. So they don't understand that the word hoe is a noun here. You know what I'm talking about? It's not necessarily something that is pertaining to a woman per se in a derogatory and shaming fashion, because it can refer to a man and it can have different connotations based off of the conversation. You know what I'm talking about? Now, when you're dealing with whores, you got like 4 types of whores. Now, I mentioned the type of whore that I'm only going to use in the course of this conversation that we're familiar with, which is a woman who is not sexually promiscuous, but yet has the mentality of a whore. And they were like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Now, I had always known this before I got in the word, but what really jammed that home pause for me was in the book of Jeremiah when he said, you have a whore's forehead. You refuse to be ashamed. Y'all know what verse I'm talking about? Let me get to that verse in Jeremiah if you don't know what I'm talking about. Come over here to Jeremiah 3. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, Jeremiah 3. Hold on. Yeah. I think it's Jeremiah 3. Let me find it real quick. Yeah. I read right on over. Jeremiah 3:1. They say if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man, shall he return unto her again? Shall not the land be greatly polluted? But you have played the harlot with many lovers, yet return again to me, saith Yahuwah. Lift up your eyes into the high places and see where you have not been lain with. And ways have you have sat for them as the Arabian in the wilderness, and you have polluted the land with your whoredoms and with your wickedness. Therefore the showers have been withholden, and there have been the latter rain, and you have a whore's forehead. You refuse to be ashamed. Now, when you're dealing with a whore or a harlot or a zanah in the context of ancient Yasharal, do y'all know the definition of a harlot? What is the attribute? Because I told you like this here, right? You know, for me, there's no shaming process in saying hoe. Because if you're a hoe, I'm going to call you a hoe. Because what is a hoe? What is a whore? That's an adjective. It's a descriptive term. If your behavior denotes that you're a whore, then you're a whore then. If your behavior denotes that you a sucker and a buster, then that's what you is. Shalom, Sister Kelly. And that's the problem with a lot of people. You know, when we're having that conversation, 22 twos was in the back of my mind. Hey, man, what's going on? And take him to his mom. He can't stand here like in 22 twos, he say, too many women, too many, B words want to be ladies. He say, so if you're a hoe, I'm going to call you a hoe. And that's too many are shady. And then what he's conveying with that is that a lot of people want to behave in a particular type of way, but you don't want to be described by the behavior that you're admitting. If that's how you behaving, then that's who you are. If you don't want to be that, then stop behaving that way. And then no one can use that adjective to describe you. You know what I'm saying? Because I mentioned the same thing that Wallow said on the interview, like because we were talking about shame. The people saying you should be sexually free, you should be able to do what you want, this, that, there, and the third. You know what I mean? That's crazy as hell. And the reason why the world is in the state it is in is because nobody wants to be shamed for their behavior. I mentioned how Wallow say now people say, nah, he's just doing his thing. No, you a junkie cause you a fiend. You shoot up dope, you get high, you're addicted to drugs, you're a junkie. That's who you are based off your behavior. Indeed, there is no standard because everybody wants to be free to live how they want to live. Now, of course, us having this conversation was, for lack of a better term, divorcing the Bible from the conversation. You know what I'm saying? And I'm only mentioning that because we can have a conversation and not force it to be biblical because the majority of us deal with the word. You know what I'm saying? But even if you're not dealing with the word, societies and communities begin to crumble when there is no standard and there is no shame for particular types of conduct. Because they were talking about free women from sexual oppression. Women are not being sexually oppressed in America because they can live and do whatever they want to do to whoever they want to do it to. Hey, boy, what's wrong with you, boy? And you got to think about that. Because that's what people want. And truth be told, that's the work of the adversary. That is the work of perversion, to distort you from your original course and intention. Yahuwah didn't make you to be out here freaking and geeking with everybody. It's not what he made you for. You know what I'm saying? That's what the Canaanites were doing. And the thing is they were like, well, if ain't nobody getting pregnant or having diseases, it ain't hurting nobody. But the reality is the psychological and emotional damage that it causes to people for whoring, whether male or female, is exponentially worse than any disease or children that people don't want to care for could ever do. Because that's the one part of sexual perversion that people negate, which is the psychological and emotional damage to the brain that's going to do. Because you ain't supposed to be in and out with that many different people, man. You know what I'm saying? It does something to you mentally and emotionally. And you won't realize it till you hit a certain point when you don't want to do it no more. And then you realize that you can't necessarily cleave to nobody because of what you've been doing, because you've been chasing pleasure all your life. You've been chasing pleasure all your life. And it is a very, very difficult situation and circumstance to go from chasing pleasure all your life to no longer being moved by that. And people don't like to discuss that. You feel me? Because it's just pleasure. Who is it hurting? You'll never see the ramifications of pleasure chasing until it's too late. You know what I'm saying? That's why he says she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth. But getting back to the point where I mentioned this man about pedophilia. People are perverse and you like to put it on a demon. You like to put it on the devil. The reason why we like to put stuff on demons and devils is because we don't want to accept the fact that human beings have proclivities that are considered to be contrary. And if another person has that type of perversion, you know what worries us about it the most? That I could have that type of perversion. And that's why we like to put it on the devil. That's why we like to put it on a demon. Because if this person is that perverted, then you know you have the propensity to be that perverted. And you don't want to accept the fact that that's a possibility. So we have to lay that at someone else's feet. Now, that's not to say that any of us would want to go to stoop to pedophilia. Because, nigga, that's extreme. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just talking about lust or perversions of any type. Remember, perversion is distorting something from its original intent. So it has to be the devil. It has to be a demon. Because if this person is able to have that in them, then you're able to have it in you also. And you don't want to look in the mirror and accept that. But then you have to remember, Yahuwah made man upright, but man has sought out many inventions. So the inventions that you set out are according to the lust that you have. Because he said, blessed is the man that endure temptation, for when he's tried, he shall receive a crown of life that the Lord hath promised to those that love him. Let no man say he is tempted of Alahym, for Alahym tempt no man, but every man is drawn and enticed by his own lust. Everybody drawn off and enticed by the desire that they got in them. They don't come in here with that noise. Now I'm gonna get you that. See what Greek word for lust is in James 1:14, and it's the same word, epithema, the desire or craving for that which is forbidden. And that's what we don't like to deal with. That you could possibly have a desire for something that is forbidden. And again, it don't have, as Solomon said, every man know the play of his own heart. It don't have to be something extreme as that, because I know it's only a scant amount of the population who are that perverted. You know what I'm saying? And every perversion, again, does not have to be sexual. And every lust does not have to be sexual. We have to move away from that thought process that when you hear lust, you just automatically equate it to sex. Because remember, lust is a desire for that which is forbidden, at least in the Greek. Even in the same in Hebrew for one word. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, let me do this. Because we done mentioned it about 2 weeks in a row. I ain't going to get to Psalms 82 today, so y'all willing, that's coming on the Shabbat. So I'm going to pull Psalm 78 and 18. I'm going to pull this Hebrew word for lust. That's not going to work because they use nefesh there. I'm going to use Psalms 81 and 12. Psalms 81 and 10. I am Yahuwah your Alahym, which brought you out of the land of Mizraim. Open your mouth wide and fill it. But my people would not hearken to my voice, and Yasharal would have none of me. So I gave them up into their own heart's lust, and they walked in their own counsels. Now, when we look at lust, in this potential instance, it is Sharuth, Shan, Rush, Rosh, U, and Tau. This instance, it is stubbornness, hardness, firmness, a sense of twisted, firm obstinacy. So one definition of lust is to be stubborn, to be obstinate. And that's when you lusting after something and you firmly want to do it irregardless of what anyone says. Now I'm looking at lust in Proverbs 6 and 25. That's a word we talked about the other day. That is kamah. That's when they say lust after not a woman's beauty with your eyelids. That's the desire to covet, to take pleasure in, to desire greatly. So in this instance, lust can be something that you take pleasure in or delight in, or that you're coveting. Now, it all going to be dependent on what you coveting after. You know what I'm talking about? Because you can't cover after something that belongs to another individual. I'm going to read you Exodus 15 and 9. Now, this is Yahuwah speaking of lust directly. The enemy said, he's talking about the enemy. The enemy said, I will pursue and overtake. I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, and my hand shall destroy them. No, excuse me. That is, we're talking about what he would do to the Egyptians, is referring to in Exodus 15. Now, lust again here is nefesh. Now, with that definition of nefesh, you're going to have soul, life, but in this instance, appetite, mind, desire, emotion, passion, seat of emotions, your passions. So now when you look at lust, and that's the seat of what you have a passion for or lust after. And we talked about that when we looked at it in the Greek in regards to your passions. It's forth as crucifying your affections and lust. It's your passions, it's your emotions. So, your emotions and your passions rest in your knee fascia in your soul. If you have to regulate those, that's why I say the first man was made a living soul, and the second man was made a quickening ruach. This is different because there's no seat of emotions and passions in a ruach, because Alahym is a ruach, and those that worship him must worship him in ruach and in truth, and there's a difference in that. Let's come back to Proverbs 6. 6 and 22. Now he say, when you go, it shall lead you. Obviously, when you're alive, walking around, it'll lead you. When you sleep, it shall keep you. When you are in the grave, it will guard you. And when you awake, it shall talk with you, because you will see Yahushua's face upon your resurrection. But this will allow me to at least start Psalms 82. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and the reproofs of instructions are the way of life. Now, when you look at reproofs of instruction, you notice tokeka, ta, u, kaf, kat, and hey. Rebuke, correction, reproof, punishment, chastisement. Now, you got the rebuke or correction of instruction, which is musar, which is discipline, chastening, or correction. Now, he told you that the commandment or the mitzvah is a lamp, which is near, Nun and Raj, the life of the chief, the life of the head, if you would. And that the law or the Torah is a light, or ray, and the way of life, or the Darak, your pathway of life, or the instructions are the way of life. What we get to, that the son was chastened. And that chastenance allowed him to be raised as the Son of God by the power of Alahym and the resurrection of the dead and the Ruach HaKodesh. So now I want you to come to Psalms 82, because this is where the contention coming at. Some people think it's a council of deities. I want you to come to Deuteronomy 32 because of this verse. Now you got things like Yahwist, Elohist. Some people think the Most High is a different deity from Yahuwah, so on and so forth. That's why I'm trying to give y'all this background information. I ain't going to go into extreme details on it because I don't have all that information in front of me. When we come to Deuteronomy 32, and 8. Shalom, Brother Margaret, man. Where I'll start is at, man. I started verse 1 on general principle. Give ear, O ye Alahym, and I will speak, and hear, O Arats, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, and my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of Yahuwah and ascribe you greatness unto our Alahym. The rock, his work perfect, for all his ways judgment. Our Alahym of truth and without iniquity, just and righteous he. They have corrupted themselves, their spot not of his children, a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus requite Yahuwah, O foolish people and unwise? Not he, your Abba, have bought you? Have he not made you and established you? Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask your Abba, and he will show you, your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the sons of Yasharal. Now, some translations are going to say the sons of God. Some translations are going to say the children of Israel. This one says the son of Adam. The sons of Adam, excuse me. That's Genesis 32. Definitely not Deuteronomy 32. So, of course, when you got Adam, or you see the sons of God, people think this is referring to a different entity. The reason this being is because people do not look at Adam as the son of God. Now, we know from Luke chapter 3 that it said, and Adam who was of Alahym, which, of course, they put in italics, the son of God. So again, that's always going to be, some people hold that's, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. That's not what we hold. We hold them to say the sons of Adam or the sons of God. That's who he's referring to. And he said he set the bounds according. This is what people get it because we were talking about it, because the individual felt like, how can Yahuwah inherit something of itself? This is verse 9. Yahuwah's portion is his people, and Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. Now, if you know what inheritance means in Hebrew, it doesn't have the same connotation per se as it does in English. Now, that word for inheritance is nakalah. That's possession or property. Inheritance, heritage, property, portion. So in the context of what he's saying is Jacob is the lot of his possession, which is cabal, a rope, a territory, a band, or a union, or a company. This is really telling you that Jacob is his possession. You know what I'm saying? Yasharal is his possession. But people don't look at it that way, because like when you see inheritance, when it's talking about the land, he's talking about this is your possession. Because I was having a conversation with a brother on Threads about this as it pertains to, he was saying, hey, the Proverbs 31 woman husband was this, that, there, and the third. He was able to put her in a position to do that. And I'm saying, and that's fair. I said, but the reality of the situation is you can't look at the Proverbs 31 woman's husband and compare that to a man in 2026, because the circumstances is not the same. And you know why the circumstances is not the same? Because this man in Proverbs 31 was in the land. So therefore, if he's in the land, you know what that tells you? They received this land by inheritance or by possession. He did not have to spend any money or perform any labor to actually possess this land. He also told you in this same land that there were houses there of which you did not build. There were vineyards there of which you did not plant. There were wells there of which you did not dig. On top of the fact that you spoiled the Egyptians on your way out. So what does this mean? Appropriately so, you had a leg up in the form of being able to produce and to provide certain things that in 2026 in the United States of America, you don't have. Now, we talked about what real wealth was a week or so ago, whatever long that was ago. You don't understand how serious that is. If you have a piece of land that you didn't have to buy, that nobody can take, and that you can plant vineyards. Matter of fact, you ain't even got to plant them. They already planted and blooming. You ain't got to do nothing. It's already set up. All you got to do is just live, obey, and prosper. That's giving you an extreme head start, which is something that when you hear people talk about, white privilege and things of that nature, that is our equivalent to that of what they had going on here. So when you have to start from nothing, see, let's put it this way, right? Just imagine if them white folks did give everybody their 40 acres. You can keep the mule. And you kept them 40 acres, because 40 acres is a lot of land. And you have the ability to garner the resources that land can produce by producing natural resources, crops, things of this nature, or having livestock, and then you be able to take the quote unquote money that you were able to derive from that and extend that money into industries of all types. Yeah, you'd be able to provide a life where this person ain't got to do X, Y, Z either. You know what I'm saying? Now, when we were talking about just the reality of, if you serve God, you blessed anywhere, that is a fact. And I wasn't really disputing him on that. I was disputing of how we can come up with certain things with good intent, and then you're placing an expectation on a man without the complete totality of the context of what's being stated. Because he was like, that's a mother talking to her son. And I'm like, that's true. But that's the Israelite to Israelite conversation. So when you're talking about an Israelite to Israelite conversation, this conversation that King Lemuel's mother's having with them, they're still in the land. And they're benefiting off of what happened in the land. Let me read that verse to you. I think it's Deuteronomy 8. Come and look at this here for those of y'all who are not familiar with this. I'll read Psalms 82 and then we'll get off of here. No, that's not Deuteronomy 8. Where is it? Hold on. Deuteronomy 6 is actually what it is. Deuteronomy 6. Deuteronomy 6 and 10. Deuteronomy 6 and 10. And it shall be when Yahuwah your Alahym have brought you into the land which he sware to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you a great and goodly cities which you build not. So boom, pause. He said you coming into a land with great and goodly cities, not just houses, but cities that you did not build. So you're coming into a land and coming into a city and benefiting from the wealth of said city with no effort. This is a part of how it's a gift from God. God giving you this. Now, I just want you to look at that from an economic standpoint. And I hate to use this terminology and not from a religious standpoint, but just from an economic standpoint. Imagine that you're coming from servitude. Imagine that you're coming from being separated from a group of people in a land where you control none of the resources. You have none of the power. You own none of the cities. You just in Goshen because that's where they put you at because y'all shepherds and you an abomination to them. Now, he already told you, I'm going to cause these people, you're going to spoil these people on your way out. You're going to leave. You're going to extract wealth from these people on your way out. Then with the wealth that you extracted from them, I'm going to guide you into a land. And in this land, I'm going to give you great and goodly cities, and you ain't built none of them. Do you understand the time and resources it takes to build a city? You have to pay attention to that. You ain't have to do none of that. Now, that's the next thing he say. And houses full of all good things, which you filled not. So in all these houses, they got good things, and you ain't put nothing in them because you're going to put these people out their house, and you're going to take their wealth. See, this is going to take you what's in Ecclesiastes 2. For those of you who are not familiar with Ecclesiastes 2. Now, I'm just mentioning this for perspective because obviously if you want to app and it was a good fruitful conversation with it, but I want you to know it wasn't contentious. We just having a conversation. It's good to be able to talk to individuals about the word where you can have a conversation to where if there is differing perspectives, that each individual can communicate their perspective in a respectful manner and come to an conclusion that we actually agree wholeheartedly, because everything ain't got to be a fight. But thankfully that brother understood that, because some people be getting their feelings, and it's hard to, well, you can tell when some people being disrespectful in that. Nevertheless, Ecclesiastes 2 and 26. For Alahym give to a man that is good in his sight wisdom, knowledge, and joy, but to the sinner he give travail, to gather and to heap up, that he might give to him that is good before Alahym. This is also vanity and vexation of Ruach. So the whole time when you was in Egypt, right, he had the Canaanites gather and heap up all this stuff so they could give it to you. They didn't know that what they were doing, but that's what you're doing. You accruing all this wealth, all this good stuff to give it to somebody else. Come back to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 11. And the houses full of good things which you filled not, and wells digged which you dig not, in vineyards and olive trees which you planted not, when you shall have eaten and be full. Now just imagine that in your mind, man. Case in point, let's just, if it's able to be a vision in your brain. For those of you who live in Jacksonville, right? And for those, Omar's in Philly, Joseph's in LA, Emma's in Ohio. Think about your city, right? And think about it in your city. You got all these brews, you did. Psalms 105 also. 105 and 41, right? And all us is walking in this city, in the city that you in, and all the houses in that city, you get to move in, and everything in that house is yours. They didn't get to take nothing with them. Everything yours. Imagine every business and industry you could think of, every farm, everything is set up for you. You just move in and take it over. That's what your forefathers did. That's what your forefathers did. You know what I'm saying? For those of you in Jacksonville, think of this, right? Imagine Sawgrass, TPC, Sawgrass, and Ponte Vedra. You know what I'm talking about? Matter of fact, bump that. Think about, you know what I'm saying? I forget the gated community, like what some of the Jaguar players stay with, and Bay Meadows. Think about Queens Harbor. You dig? And all of you pulling up like, hey, you going in this house, and whatever they got in that house, that's yours now. They gone. They cars. If they had safes with money and jewelry in it, that's yours now. Imagine all the banks that's in a particular city, and you just taking that over. Yeah, that's me. Appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what your forefathers did. Of course, they didn't have banks. So that means whatever they had in that house that was of value is yours. You understand how wealthy you become when you take over lands with vineyards and wells? And you got to understand, if you're taking over lands, that means they got livestock. You taking that too. You taking that too. That is a massive head start that just can't be discounted, because we're looking at it from a Western perspective, that you think that they got it out the mud. Your forefathers didn't get it out the mud, blood. They didn't have to. They had Yahuwah with them. They didn't get nothing out the mud. He gave it to them. And he gave them the wealth of other people. Let me read Psalms 105. Psalms 105 and 41. He opened the rock and waters gushed out, and they ran in dry places like a river. For he remembered his Kadash promise and Abraham his servant. And he brought forth his people with joy and his chosen people with gladness. And he gave them the lands of the heathen, and they inherited the labor of the people. Listen what he just said, man. They inherited the labor of the people. Now I'm going to give you inherited here. Your inherited here is your Rosh, Yad, Rosh, and Shan. To seize, to dispossess, to take possession of, to occupy, to take possession of. Do you understand what it means to dispossess somebody? I'm taking that, blood. I'm taking that. That was yours. Now it's mine. I'm dispossessing you of everything them people worked for. They took it. Matter of fact, they didn't even have to take it. It was just there. You can go ahead and slide in and get it. So I'm only mentioning that because we can't make that equivalency, because it's not equal. You know what I'm saying? It's not equal. Because you in America, you ain't dispossessing these people from nothing. You know what I'm talking about? Now, there's one thing we do agree upon, and this is the truth. Unfortunately, this is the harsh reality. As a people, as a whole, this people is cursed. As an individual, you obey and believe in Yahushua HaMashiach, you blessed. You can't be cursed and obey God. That's retarded. And that's what a lot of these niggas don't like to look at. No, I'm not cursed. This people is cursed as a whole. And that curse is just exile and lack of power. See, when you look at those curses in Deuteronomy 28 closely, like really, really closely, You're going to see things that pertains on a national scale, meaning you don't have national wealth. You don't have your land. You don't have power, rule, and authority. Your land's not going to produce. Your cattle's not going to produce. You're going to be exiled. People are going to be able to overtake you militarily. That's what that's dealing with. The same way that those blessings are national, if you would. Things that pertain to the continual blessings, benefit, and upkeep of the people as a whole in the land. Now, when you break that down, and he tells you this in Jeremiah, that he could speak to do this as to a nation or to an individual. So if you're cursed as an individual, it's because you're unbelieving and disobedient. You're faithless and disobedient. That's what I meant when I think earlier that I mentioned that about what a harlot is. A harlot by definition is someone who is unfaithful, which would mean that you're disloyal. You're not steadfast to a cause or individual. You know what I mean? And I don't think a lot of ladies are more concerned with the man being loyal to them with their genitalia. And men desire for their woman to be loyal to them, to their genitalia, but men do just not limit loyalty to what you do with your genitals. Because you could be loyal with your genitals and disloyal to this man in every other area of life. And you couldn't fathom in your brain why he don't fool with you, because he's already deduced that you are not loyal to him. But you think you loyal to him because you're not having sex with other people. You know what I'm saying? Because you just loyal to his vision. You just loyal to his purpose. You just loyal to him as a man. You're unsupportive. You're disrespectful, rude, and indignant. But I ain't having sex with nobody, so I'm loyal. Man, you're the worst type of disloyal individual. You know what I'm saying? Because that type of loyalty to women doesn't hold as much weight. Didn't say that they don't care about it. I said it doesn't hold as much weight as it does to a man. Because loyalty to a man is not regulated to just what you do with your genitals. Unfortunately, in the natural side of things, this is why you hear dudes be like, okay, I was just having sex with that woman. It wasn't that serious, because he's not judging his loyalty based off what he does with his genitals. He's basing it off other areas of life. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying you have to agree with it. I'm saying this so you can understand the thought process of when you hear dudes say that. This is when you have to divorce your emotions from this and try to understand a person's perspective or point of view. Just because you're trying to understand someone's perspective or point of view doesn't mean that you agree with it. You know what I'm saying? And we have to get to a point where you're mature enough to understand, just because I'm trying to understand you does not mean that I agree with you. You know what I'm saying? Because if you've made a covenant with somebody to be loyal to them, have fidelity to them, as forth as what you do with your loins, nigga, I'm not agreeing with that. When you break said fidelity, we can't agree with that. You know what I'm talking about? But as forth as how that man viewed loyalty to be like it was just sex, I understand why he holds that perspective, being a man, because he's just not judging his loyalty based off of that. But again, for ladies, that's very important. So you would have to know and understand that. You know what I'm saying? But again, just because you try to understand someone's point of view and perspective does not mean that you agree with it, condone it, or promote it. And we too old to not be able to understand that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, you could be the most loyal woman with your loins as you possibly could be, and be the most disloyal individual that ever walked the earth. I'm talking about ever walked the earth. And you'll be oblivious to the fact that you are like, no, you're not loyal to me. You think you are, but you're really not. You know what I'm saying? Again, and I'll read you the definition of loyalty one more time so you can understand that. Because I read it the other day. My God, today. Again, loyalty by definition, a strong feeling of support or allegiance. So when you look at that allegiance by that covenant, you can see how loyal Jonathan was to David. You can see how loyal Yahuwah is and Yahusha is to those who obey him. And again, it's the quality of being faithful and showing strong commitment, support, and allegiance to a person, group, cause, or ideal even in the face of difficulty. This involving trust, honest, and steadfast devotion. You understand that? Listen to this again. This is the quality of being faithful and showing strong commitment, support, and allegiance to a person, a group, a cause, or ideal, even in the face of difficulty, and it requires steadfast devotion. What is an ideal? What is devotion? All of these things can relate over to the word, if you would. When you look at what an ideal is, it satisfies one conception of what is perfect or one is suitable. That is not what we look at. A standard of beauty or perfection, beauty or excellence. On a larger scale, ideals refers to universal principles: love, peace, justice, compassion, integrity, freedom, respect for human rights. Our ideal is holiness, godliness, amuna, aman. What is devotion? That is love, loyalty, or enthusiasm for a person, activity, or a cause. So see, if you don't have steadfast enthusiasm to the purpose and cause that what he got going on, then you're not loyal. And when you look at what cause is by definition, that is a principle or aim or movement that because of deep commitment, one is prepared to defend or advocate for. So if you don't have that strong devotion to that cause, then you're not loyal. Even in the face of difficulty, because that's where loyalty is really tested at, which is why he said that, he take you through the furnace of affliction. When we were talking about him testing you and trying you with these tribulate things of this nature, because it's easy to be loyal when there's no difficulties. The steadfastness of your loyalty is made plain when things are difficult. How fast will you stay to that ideal? How long will you stay to these principles? How long will you stay to the cause when it's difficult? You know what I'm saying? I've always told you, man, and the reality of the life is what taught me this, is that you never see the individual's character until you see how they handle adversity. And when adversity comes, most people loyalty goes away with it. You know what I'm saying? Like we were talking about this other day, like the common misconception that women can learn to love people that they're. Cause I like to say, man, I don't believe none of that junk. Because me personally, I know that women like good-looking men as well. Now, what that woman defines a good-looking man is up to her. But this thought process that women just will be with an ugly dude just because he got a great personality is in TVs and movies. Because when you step outside in real life, that's not what's happening. Now, like when man's asked the sister a question, he was like, okay, if the dude is not conventionally attractive, but you work with him, see, that's proximity. So in that proximity, you're going to overlook that. I say, but if that same man tried to holler at you on the street and you wasn't physically attracted to him, would you holler at him? And the answer was no. Because the reality is women want to be attracted to the man that they with. Now, a woman will get with a man she deems unattractive if there is a benefit for her. If she knows that, okay, he'll take care of me, he'll do this, he'll do that, he'll do this, then she will forsake that attraction. But she don't really like this nigga like that. You know what I'm saying? So, because he was like, when you got money, yeah, but when the money run out, that woman gonna leave. Because she don't really fool with you like that. There's no steadfast devotion and loyalty to you because she don't like you. When you have a woman and she likes you, and she's attracted to you, and she desires you, and she fools with you, then in the face of difficulty, she will still be loyal to the cause because she fooled with you. It's easy to be loyal to someone you genuinely love. That's why he said when persecution arise and tribulation arise because of the word, because they have no root in them, by and by they are offended. Because he said it started off with joy because they didn't love the man. They didn't love the man. So because they didn't love the man, when the problems start, out of that. Say, yeah, because humans were visual, but spiritual, like Proverbs 31 and 30 and 1 Samuel 16 and 7. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when Jacob saw Rachel, he said, hey, man, she got a beautiful countenance. And he desired her. You know what I'm saying? This thought process that women don't care about looks is asinine. I don't even want out, and it's because women perpetuate that lie and men believe it. But if you've been around enough women and you ask enough women, they will tell you they like a man whom they find physically attractive. You know, one of the biggest lies that they be sending out of here, that women like dad bods. They don't. Now, if she been with you, it's cool. Now, you see, we ain't saying you got to look like no bodybuilder. But nah, man, don't go for that because they lying. You know what I'm talking about? They lying to you in general. I'm not saying everything. That's a lie. Women like men. You know how you know this here? Because how amped up women get if there's a man that she like and he got a haircut, if he dress a particular type of way, if he has a particular type of physique. Because we tell them all the time, you got dudes who got money who that woman don't find physically attractive. And then you got a nigga who ain't got nothing who she find physically attractive and she all up on him. Because that's what she likes. It don't matter what he got. He ain't got to have nothing if she likes him. This thought process of leading with your, nah, bro, that's a surefire way to when things get difficult, that woman gonna be gone. And for you to think it's cool for somebody to dip out on you when things get difficult and you think, well, you know, you's a sucker. No suckerism, man. We don't promote no suckerism. We're not associating with no suckers. We're not associating with no type of sucker behavior. Because that's retarded. Because that mindset is how that seed amongst the stones, that's how it's produced. Because you only with this man for whatever perceived benefit you think you can get from serving him. But once that persecution, that tribulation come, once that difficulty come, your loyalty gone. Your devotion is gone. Yeah, man, it's easy to be loyal and loving and supportive when it's easy. Anybody can do that. That is not a hallmark of your character. Your character is tested when things are uncomfortable. Because that's going to reveal who you really are. I'm telling you that. I know I'm telling you this from almost 46 years of life experience, man. The revelation of people's character is revealed in the times of adversity, tribulation, and uncomfortability. That's when who you really are comes out. You can cover up who you are when everything's smooth. Everything good, we don't know who you really are for real. That's right, Ernest. You know what I'm saying? Let me read Psalms 82 to get off here. It's the same way what people tell you can see how people feel about you when there's a disagreement or when you tell them no. That's when you see how people really feel about you. That's when people's character get really revealed. When you tell them no. You know what I'm saying? Or when you disagree. Disagreement should not spawn into verbal disrespect. You know what I'm saying? If it starts spawning into that, that's a reflection of somebody's character. Psalms 82 and 1. Alahym stand in the congregation of the mighty, he judge among the gods. This verse is why people believe there's a pantheon of gods and they believe that Yahuwah is not the head of that pantheon. Y'all will deal with that on the Shabbat. How long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Selah. Defend the poor and the fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy and rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. I've said ye are gods, and all of you are sons of the Most High. But you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. Arise, O Alahym, judge the earth. You shall inherit all nations. And with that being said, hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. I appreciate y'all time this evening. I bless you in the house of Alahym in the name of Yahushua. Prayerfully, y'all understood all of those things and it made sense. We're trying to, of course, tie in a multitude of things in together. You did. Peace, Brother Omar, as it pertains to things, but also just to see how that bind together with the covenant of love and all that, make it do what it do. But I appreciate y'all, man. Again, I bless y'all the house of Alahym in the name of Yahushua. Yahuwah willing, man. We'll be back at it on the Shabbat. Make it do what it do. You know what I'm talking about? Amen, Sister Regina. Shalom. And y'all will until the end, man. Amen, Brother Mark. Love you too, bro. Hold it down, man. Amen, Brother Ernest, man. Thank you, man. Hold it down.